All right, now we're recording, and I'm going to go ahead and get sharing. Bam. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and close this out. There we go. Accept all these various things. I forgot to charge my laptop. It should be fine. Okay. Here's that. Cool. Get rid of these menu controls. You can't, it looks like I'm just clicking nothing, but I'm clicking the Zoom controls. Okay. So then pull up the chat so that I can see everybody. Okay, cool, great. So let's pull this up over here. There we go. Okay, so as mentioned last week, I'm going to take the EJS that was your actual assignment, and we're going to retrofit it all into React. So as you can see here, I actually have a React I made a GitHub repository, and then I did the EJS code, right? And then I made a new branch with React that doesn't have the EJS on it, obviously, as you can see. So I just created a new branch for React, and then just ran like the bootstrap for making a new React app. There's a couple ways you can do that. The old way was called npx, which is like npm, but it always installs the most recent version of something. And then there's Vite, which is the new thing that they recommend you use in the last couple of years. Vite is used to bootstrap a lot of different front end framework stuff. So you can see that here, right? It's in my dependencies. The only other dependency I added was Axios, which is a library for performing our familiar HTTP protocols: get, post, update, delete, all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit easier to use than just raw like fetch or something like that. So we're going to be using that. And yeah, let's just sort of get right into it. Let's get rid of all these. Okay, so before I get to any of that stuff, let's actually set up our utility stuff here. Because I'm gonna hopefully, if we have enough time, do this two different ways. So I'm gonna make a library here called lib. This is where we have our like utility stuff. I'm gonna make a new file called secret source, which is where our like secret word stuff is gonna live. Okay, so this is gonna be done two different ways. All right, so first we're gonna bring in Axios because we're gonna need that. Axios. And then I'm going to have a variable to set whether we're going to be using an API or just like storing the secrets locally. We're not going to use the API at first. We're going to keep it more simple. But if we have time, I'm going to make it a little bit more complex. But since it's just the simple stuff today, setting up the basic scaffold of the app, we have a little bit of extra time to do some more complex stuff. So if some of this is going over your head at the beginning, it's okay. We're going to go over it multiple times over multiple lessons. Right, so I have this, I'm just setting a const called use API. And this is just going to be false when we're wanting to use our basic simple version of grabbing our secret word. And then we're going to eventually create just like a really quick like express server that's going to just similar to how we did in all of our previous lessons, right? When we would hit these API points, like for the jobs API, right? We would hit API/v1/jobs to get all of our jobs, right? If we wanted to log in, we'd hit post to a different API route, or we hit the register route or the login route, or all those different things, right? We can do that, but I want to keep it a little bit more simple at the beginning, and then if we have time, yeah, do something a little bit more complex. So this is going to be false because we're not using our API now, but later we might. So let's just document out a little bit here so we know for sure. So this is going to be the local version of secret. All right, so we are going to use what we talked about last week, actually. We're going to be using local storage, which is a special object stored inside of your web browser that persists between different viewing sessions. And yeah, it's almost like a mini database inside of your web browser. It's not really what it's like, but you can sort of think of it that way. And I have a key here. It's similar to like with our jots, right? You need a special key in order to grab the value of something in local storage. So I'm just gonna make it just secret word dot value. It's just a string. This is not like a yeah. This could be anything. I'm just doing this, so it's pretty obvious what it is. So we're going to make a quick function to grab stuff from local storage. Usually, especially in React, I actually show people how to make your own custom React hook or function to grab from local storage. But since that is out of the scope of this lesson, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm just going to be doing it straight up. So we're going to first see if there is a secret word in local storage, right? So we're going to let secret word equal, and the local storage API, which is just built in, we don't need to do anything or download anything. It's literally just called local storage. And then to get an item from local storage, it's literally local storage.get item. So this is our key. So if we don't have that, right? So if there is no secret word here, oh, did I spell this wrong? It's secret rod. Whoops, word. Secret word. So if there's no secret word, we're going to set the secret word to be, they use the word syzygy, which is a cool word. Syzygy. And then just like, wait, what? Oh, whoops, why did I do that? Oopsies. There we go. And so just like for getting an item, oh, it's supposed to get item from local storage. When you want to put something in local storage, it's actually set item. So local storage dot set item. So we need our key. And then we're just going to put that secret word into local storage. So new stuff, but still nothing too crazy, right? We're just grabbing our local storage item. If that doesn't exist, we're just going to set a basic one, syzygy. Then we're going to return for us, because we want to get something back from this, obviously. We're just setting it right here. We want to return to ourselves. This is an object, remember. Secret word. And then we also want info and errors, which is just like in case, similar to how they're doing it in the base EJS version. We want our info and our errors. Just in case there are any. I doubt we will, but just in case. And then we need another one for setting a new word. This is just grabbing our word, not setting it. This is just like setting up the base word. So set local, I'm going to call it set local. Which now we have a one to get, we have one to set. So just in case we have errors, just sort of following along with the structure of the base app in EJS. Nothing crazy. So if we don't have a next word that doesn't already exist, let's go ahead and let them know that we don't have a secret word. Push to our errors array. This is an array, right? Secret word required. So that's checking if we don't have a word. And it looked like we had some weird random thing where secret words can't start with a P. So if next word, let's sanitize it here with 2 uppercase. So we're not worried about that at all. That starts with a P. What we're going to say is errors dot, then we're going to push to our little errors array. That word won't work. And we'll also push, you can't use words that start with P. And for all other things, so this is assuming we do have a word and it doesn't start with P, then we're just going to go back to local storage. So grab local storage. We're going to set the item to be, we need to pass in our keys to make sure we're allowed to do that, and then just set it to our next word. Oh, we actually probably need to put that as a parameter here. And then we push into our info. Info.push. The secret word was changed. All right, so this is all stuff that happens in the base app that we're just sort of handling here instead. Okay, so now all this is going on. So we're taking our secret word. It's going to be equal to the value that we get back, whatever's being stored in local storage. So we need, it's either going to be our local storage item, which again, we need to pass in our ls key to be able to get it, or if we don't have that at all, something's not working. If it's the base, it's going to be syzygy again. And then let's just return, same thing as before, return our secret word, all of our info and any errors. Okay. So this is all handled elsewhere, right? It's sort of like just straight up in a different file in the EJS version, but this is sort of like a extra helpful utility thing. So we're setting it up in our lib, in our utils here. So this is the part that we're not going to be using right away, but it is really important to know. So we're just going to set this up. It's okay if some of this flies over your head, right? So here's going to be our Axios version. Right, so this is where we're bringing Axios, right? So Axios is a super useful thing. You can either just use it straight up. So since we brought in Axios here, we could theoretically from any place, any API or any website or anything, we can just use axios.get or axios.post or axios.delete or axios.create, all the stuff we're used to using with Postman. Axios just does that. You can just call it just like that as long as you're importing it. But especially when you're setting up a more robust, scalable app like we're going to be doing over the next couple of lessons, what is a good idea is actually what you call create an Axios instance, which is just literally you use a method in Axios called create that just sets up like all the basic options. Like if you have like authentication or anything like that, you want to create your Axios object that contains those sort of options, so that all of your Axios, all the stuff you use Axios for have those like, authentication stuff. For us, we're just going to set a base URL that we're going to be grabbing from, right? Because we're going to be grabbing from a new, from our Express server, just like we've done in all the other lessons. But yeah, it's done like this. So we're going to export, we're going to just call our API, because that's what we have been calling it so far in all the other lessons is, API/v1/whatever. So it's going to be equal to axios.create. And axios.create here accepts a lot of different options. We're not going to mess with all of them. We're just going to set our base URL. Now, there's a couple ways you can set the base URL. I'm just going to do it super simple. It's going to be localhost 3000. Right, so this just says whenever I run this Axios, any sort of Axios thing, axios.get, axios.post, it would really be API because we're calling it API here. It's going to know to start at localhost 3000. It just sort of shortens that a little bit for us. And then we want to just add in our headers to accept JSON. It's /JSON here. All right, so this is, again, this is not super necessary. We could just, in all of our Axios requests, just type all this out, but this is just saving us a little bit of time. Like, for example, if we wanted to grab from our localhost 3000, just like we've done a ton of times, right? Like, for example, our jobs API, right? When we got all of our jobs in Postman, we would get from API, localhost, whatever it's being hosted on, 3000, localhost 3000 /API/v1/jobs, or get all jobs, or whatever it was called, right? And then it would show us all of our jobs. Same thing here, right? Except we're making special functions for it. So it's going to be called get from API. Very creative. It's going to have a really similar syntax to what we're already familiar with. All right. So we're using object destructuring syntax again, something we're used to. It's going to be equal to no, wait, it's going to be async, right? Because it's getting from something. API.get. That's it. Now, normally, if we didn't have this base URL, if I would comment this out, it would just be something we've seen before. Localhost 3000 slash, it would be hosted somewhere called secret word, right? Rod word, right? And this is something that we've seen a ton already, right? Like in Postman, we're doing a get to an API route. But since we have this base URL, we can just shorten this to just this slash secret word. Actually, yeah, let's get rid of this one because this would be 2 slashes. There we go. And then we just return the data. Now, what would data be, right? Don't forget, let's comment out here. So what would this return? Expected output, which is a common phrase you would use, would be our secret word, our info, and our errors, right? Except for storing in local storage. Now, if we wanted to change our secret word, it would be just the same thing, except instead of a get, what do? We would post. Post, maybe set would be better because we're using get. Get and set are usually paired names. Get to set to API, really similar thing. So again, const, we use object structuring for our data. Can be equal to await API dot post. That would also be the secret word. Once again, we return data. Again, our expected output here would be our secret word info errors, just to reiterate there. All right, we're almost done with all this stuff, and then it'll just be some straight React stuff. So this is the stuff we're actually going to export and use. So exported functions to use elsewhere. All right, so now that we've done these, we're actually going to, so these aren't actually the ones we're exporting out and using other places. These functions here and these functions here are just setting up to be used in the functions we're actually exporting. So export async function. We're just going to call it get secret word. This is the be all end all function for grabbing our secret word, whether or not we're using the local or the API version, right? This is going to handle both of those. And you can do it very easily. We're going to have a try catch block where, and this is where we had that use API. We'll check to see whether use API is true or false. So I'm going to use a ternary operator here because it's just the most straightforward way to do it. Use API, question mark. So if we're not familiar with ternary operator syntax, the thing to the left of the question mark, we're checking to see if this is true. If it is true, something runs. And if it's not true, something else runs. The first one is if it's true. So if use API is true, we're going to use our API version, which is this one here, right? Get from API. And if it's not true, if it's false that we're using our API, we'll use the local one, which is just called get local. And again, where am I getting these? The ones we just made, right? Here's get local. We just made it here. It's the one where we grabbed from local storage. And what's get from API? It's this one. It's this one here. Then just catch this in case we have an error, which I doubt. We'll just throw a new error, capital E error. So we could just would be the error.response.data.message, right? This is Axios stuff. Or just the error.message if we don't have that from Axios, or just request failed. So we're handling, this is much longer because we're handling, once again, whether or not we're using our local version or our Axios version. If we're using Axios, we'd get this. This is an Axios thing. This is where any errors that we would get on the Axios side, it would be stored in an error object. Then that error object has a property called response, and that response property has a property called data, and that data property has a property called message, and that's where the actual error message lives. If we're using our local version, it's just going to be error.message. And I just put request here. I realized request failed. And if we have neither of those things, for some reason, we're just going to say request failed. It's also unhappy with me for some reason. Export, I keep doing this. Function, there we go. Okay, so we have forgetting, and of course we also need to be able to set our secret word, and then that'll be it. So really similar stuff, async function, make sure I spell it right, set secret word. It's going to be, yeah, almost the exact same thing as this, right? So try. So are we using our API? So are we using our API? Question mark. If we are, we use just our other ones, our set ones, right? Set to API or set local. That's why we had those naming conventions. That's very straightforward what's happening. Except we need to actually pass in our secret word here. Whoopsies, in here. Secret word. Secret word. Then just catch any errors that we have for some reason. Throw new error. And same thing here, handling all of our possibilities. Error dot response dot data dot message, or error dot message if it's local, or if something really crazy is going on, just say request failed. Okay, so this is a common strategy for larger apps. It's, yeah, not necessary here right now, but since we're going to be scaling up this app over the next couple of lessons, and I didn't look ahead to see exactly what's going to be used, we're going to take a little bit of a more verbose, a little bit more of a robust way of setting this up, just so we don't have to change it later, right? So this is a lot of work right at the get-go, but now it's done. And no matter how complex this app gets, this secret word stuff is going to be just handling it's going to be used with just these two functions, no matter what. Oh, whoops, also it needs to be here too, secret word. Yeah, so a little bit of a long setup, but especially, in a real job setting, you're going to have these huge things that multiple people are going to be working on for months and months and months, right? And this took me a couple minutes while explaining it to you, right? And now we can use it forever. So now that we've got all that set up, let's go ahead and do some actual React, because I'm sure that's what everyone wants to see. So of course, I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with React, but the whole beauty of React is that everything is split up into components, right? Which is just a little function that returns some HTML. It's really similar to how EGS does it, actually, with if you did the homework, which I'm assuming y'all did. It's got partials, right? Which was where you can just make a little snippet of HTML and put it in your code. And you can have multiple of those in one HTML file. React does that as well, except it's just a little bit easier to use, in my opinion. So we're going to make the same components that we had, namely the header and the footer, right? They had a third partial, the head, but that was just the head of the HTML file, which we don't need to worry about here because there already is a base HTML file for all React projects. So we're going to make a header.jsx file, and we're going to make a footer.jsx file. So let's make the header first. It's going to be really simple. So when you are making a component, you just do really simple export syntax, export default function, and then the name of the component, which we're going to call header. Maybe not entirely necessary, but we're going to pass in our errors and our info, because that is how it was done in the EJS version. I will say header here, header. All right. There we go. And then inside of these functions, you just want to return something. Return a big old bunch of HTML. So let's make a header. And then inside of that, I'm trying to remember offhand here, there's something like a secret word. Rod, why do I keep doing that? React version, woohoo. All right, so that's React. And then let's make a div. Inside this div, we're going to have our errors and our information, right? Because we want that to pop up on the screen when we do stuff like change our secret word, right? In the base version, when you change your secret word, it says, oh, the secret word was changed. Or if you make some sort of error, namely making a word starts with a P, it wants to tell you that that was wrong. So here's what we're going to do, right? Because remember, our error and our info is an array of just strings. So what we can do with arrays, which is really nice, is we can map over them. So in EJS, right, when you would just be doing your JavaScript like this, and you would do those little, it was like, it'd be like this, right? Like a bracket and then like a percent sign or something, a percent sign equal, something like that. Here, you just do curly braces, and then you can just put JavaScript in your HTML. So we're going to map over all of our errors and render them out onto the screen. So I don't usually like single letter variables, but it is the best way to do it in this particular instance. Wait, it's supposed to be like that, I think. I'm already confusing myself. There's so many things. I'm doing something wrong here. Oh, I set up the map wrong. Errors, map, E and then I, and then like this. Yeah, there we go. Then we just want to make a new little div in here, and just it'll show whatever text is in the error. So we'll just say error, and then use curly braces because remember this is JavaScript, and do that. And that's literally it. It's going to say error, and then for every error in here, we can actually maybe even I use E here. What font do I use for my IDE? Good question. I'm pretty sure I've done a lot of, this is actually the less distracting version. I have a cooler version but it's very distracting for class. Let's see, which one is it here? I have a lot of them. I use this one sometimes, Dark Synthwave 84. Let's see if I can find the one that I'm using. Horizon is a really nice looking one. I really like the look of that one. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I think it's this one, Synthwave X Flora Machine. Yep, as you can see, it's pretty much the exact same thing. This one has extra features where it has like, if you can sort of see in this, it has like this like little like grid background. And it's kind of hard to see here in this image, but some of the variables are actually glowing. They actually have like a little glow thing. It's pretty cool looking, and it's good for well, it's actually not very helpful. It just looks cool. But you can actually, yeah, you can import custom CSS for in your VS Code. It's just experimental. So use at your own risk. But that's yeah, that's the mod that I use is Synthwave X Flora Machine. Anyway, so when you're mapping, so maybe we'll go over what's happening here, right? So E here stands for element, each element in your that you're mapping over. And this I here is stands for the index of each one. These are built-in parameters. I didn't make these up. I mean, I made up the actual things that, right? This could say error, right? This could say index. But the first parameter in a map is going to stand for each thing that you're mapping over in the array. And the second one will actually just carry with it the index, as in like the index, its place in the array of each thing. And the reason I'm bringing in index is because it's not absolutely necessary, but when you're mapping in React especially, it will actually tell you a little warning like, hey, you're mapping and you don't have a key. So when you're mapping in React, you want whatever, like the largest thing that's containing in here. So that would be this div. It should have a key that's unique to that thing. It's not yet, your code will run without it, but it is bad practice to not do it. So just to keep in good React practice, we're going to have a key here, and it's going to be equal to error dash index. Whoops. I've meant to string interpolate here. And then I can money sign. Come on. Money sign. There we go. Okay. And now this div has a key. Again, yeah, it's not necessary, but it is important to do because React is very, very big on its accessibility stuff. And so you really should be always following good practices when doing React code, because since it caters to such these large companies, they want to have it built into the rules that like you should be doing the best possible practices at all times. Another example of that is if you ever have an image in React, you always want to have an alt property for any image, which is a verbal description of what the image is for people who are blind, right? And they're using like a screen reader. You want to be able to tell them, right? They're reading the screen they can't see, so they need the screen reader to tell them what the image is in very straightforward terms. And so if you ever have an image in React that doesn't have an alt tag, a little description, it'll say, hey, you're messing up here. You got to go back here and you got to put an alt image. Because yeah, React is built for stuff like Facebook and Instagram. And imagine these like websites that cater to millions of people. If they, discriminated against people who are blind or are deaf or have other, like other situations that makes them not able to perceive a web page in the normal way, right? It's called accessibility. And so that's a long-winded way to say why I'm setting this key here. But also, yeah, React is really big on that kind of stuff, and you should be too. Same thing here. If we have any info that we need to show the user, whoops, I kept this to be error. Yeah, I don't usually do one letter parameters, but E and I are the two that I specifically do because it pretty much always either stands for error or element, and I always stands for index. But I'll lengthen them out here for you just so you know what I'm talking about. So same thing here. Well, I'm already using, it's not an error. It's I'll just use E again. So now I'm just gonna use E and I now that we know what I'm doing. So same thing here. We're going to return another div where it says info and then E, and then let's give it a key again. Error dash okay. So there we go. That's the header. And then this is being exported so we can actually import this in other places. But we'll do that in just a sec. Let's make the footer. It's going to be even more simple, right? Because this is where just the things like the year and it says a copyright would go here. And so that's what we'll do. We'll just do, I should have the copy. I should go find the copyright, the little C, right? That shows that something's copyrighted. I'll go find that in a second. Export default function footer. Same thing again. We'll return some HTML. Make a footer HTML element and just a little p tag, just something small. So let's throw the date in here, right? So new date, it's an indicate and then a dot. Let's just get the full year. And then a copyright could go here. Actually, you can actually put emojis in here. So I think I could just do an emoji actually. Come on, emoji button. There we go. There we go. Cool. Haha. I have a Mac that has an emoji button, so it's useful for stuff like that. Okay, and this is it. That's literally it. So it's a much, much simpler version of the exact thing you were doing in EJS, right? So let's go to our app. So this is just the base app that comes with out of the box with Vite. We can actually look at this, right? npm run dev. We can open this up. Look, there it is. So this is what just when you make a new Vite React app, this is what shows up. There's a little counter here. Boop, 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 boop. You can click it a bunch of times and it counts up. It's fun. And anytime you edit app.jsx and save it, it will show up here. So let's do that. Get rid of all this. Don't need it. We don't need this state. We will need state overall, but just not that state. We won't need any of this stuff either. So we are going to need use state. And we are also going to need use effect. Again, I'm not sure exactly how familiar everyone is with React stuff, so I'll try and just do the basic explanation of what this stuff is, but let's import our header. Whoops, whoa. And import our footer. I'm just having autocorrect fill that out for me. Okay, so, and then we need our stuff that we made, our little utility functions here in our lib. So that is going to be here, import, use object destructuring here to grab get secret word and set, no, that's set, no, it is set secret from here, lib.secret source. So now we can do stuff with our app. So before we even return anything, we're going to be doing quite a bit of use state here. So for those who aren't familiar, right, state is special, there's special variables inside of React. And the thing that makes state different than regular variables is that whenever state changes, any components in React that render state or use any of that state are going to re-render, and just those things. And that's part of what makes React so quick, right? So I got rid of that whole thing, right? But you remember, you saw a second ago, right? Like the little like counter clicker thing. And it had the number, right, of how many times it had been clicked. Just that one button was the only part of the app, the only component that had the count state in it, right? So every time I was clicking it, just that button was updating. The rest of the app, all the other stuff, that was not updating, right? And that's how it's able to do things much faster, right? Because it checks to see and only changes the things that need to change whenever state changes. Just a little quick reminder in case we didn't know what state was. So we're gonna need a couple things. We're gonna need our secret word, of course. So whenever you make state in React, you use a special function called useState, and you use array destructuring syntax here to create the variable itself, and you also give it a function to change the state itself. It's always usually set, and then whatever the name of the variable was. So here it's secret word. And then you set that equal to use state. And then inside of use state, you set its a default value, which is just going to be nothing for now. So we're going to do this a couple times. We need it for our input, right? Our text input when we're trying to change our secret word. So I'm just going to call it input, and it's going to be set input. That's going to be equal to use state, and that's also going to be an empty string. We're going to do this a bunch of times, all right? Because we need our errors and our info, right? For showing up on the screen. So errors, set errors. That's going to be equal to, obviously, use state. And if you recall, again, errors and info are actually an array. So it's going to be an empty array. Same thing again. So info. And you probably can guess by now what's going to be the follow-up here. Set info can be equal to use state, empty array. And we're going to have one more, which is not necessary for this beginning part, probably. Maybe we could use it. It's going to be loading, right? Because there's going to be a brief moment, right, when we're using our API version, where it's going to grab from the API and then come back. So there's going to be loading for a brief moment. So we just want to have something maybe show up while it's loading, because that's how most sites work. When it's loading, you're going to have something else show up, and then once it's loaded, then you show the actual content. So a lot of state, but now we can use it. All right. So here is all of our state, but we're also going to need use effect to set things when we first open the page, right? So use effect is a actually, I don't think we actually need it for here. So when we load into the website at the very first time, we're gonna I'm gonna actually abstract out this function. I could put it straight into use effect, but this is a little bit more straightforward. So what am I doing here? I'm just setting up a function for when the first time our website loads up, it sets all these base values, right? For like our secret word and our errors and our info. Because remember, it's going to be stored in local storage. And so we want to like clear it out first and then grab our stuff from local storage, just so we don't have any sort of like weirdness that happens, right? There's some sort of conflict between what was on the screen before and what's inside of our local storage. We just want to make sure all that stuff is like clear, So it's going to be loading for a second. So set loading is going to be equal to true, right? So remember, set loading is the function that changes the value of this loading variable here, the state. We're going to change it to true for a quick second here. And then we're going to do a quick try catch block. We're going to take our data, remember, our data from get secret word. And then, so now we've gotten our secret word, right? Remember, this is the function we set up in here, right? The one that handles it, whether it's local or with an API, right? So once it's done doing that, we have data. Remember, let's go back here again. Remember, what are we actually getting back when we get this secret word? We're getting this expected output. It's an object with our secret word, as well as our info and our errors. We're getting all of this back right away. So we have access to this stuff now, right? In this data object, all those things. We have our, so we have data dot secret word, we have data dot errors, and we have data dot info. So now that we have our secret word, we can use set secret word to set our secret word. It's straightforward, right? So set secret word is going to be equal to data dot secret word. If for some reason that's not in there, right? If there's not an existing secret word inside of local storage, just set it to be nothing. And then we need to set all of our other stuff, set our errors, set our info. So set errors, that's going to be equal to, well, this actually we want to check for. So we're actually going to check, so is it an array? And does it actually have anything in it? Whoa. Don't know why I did that. So this is just quickly checking to see, is this an array that contains errors? I know it's a little bit of a more complicated way to do it, but we're just checking to see if there are any errors in our data. Remember this is an empty array. Does this array have any errors in it? If it does, just put those out here. If it doesn't, if there are no errors, it's just going to be an empty array. Same thing here, exact same thing for our info. Array dot is array, data dot info. Do we have any info in our info array? If we do, let's set that. If not, it's an empty array. No, it's upset with me because I don't have a catch. I saved it. But yeah, again, we're just setting errors. We're setting this value here to either contain any errors that we currently have. And if we don't have any, just keep it empty, right? And last one is to set the input. This is the text input for changing our secret word. We want that to be empty when we first load the page. So it's just going to be an empty string. So we need a catch block, of course, for any errors. And this is where we can also, if we run into any errors on this side, we can also set errors here to be whatever the message is. And then finally, this is another one that we actually can use if you've never seen this in a try catch block. Finally, what's actually it's like this: set loading to false. And it's what it sounds like, right? Finally, this is like after the trying, after the catching, and then finally at the end, we set loading to false. Right, so all this is going to go inside of a use effect, which I'll set up in a second. But it's easier to abstract out the logic into its own function so that it's a little bit easier to read and you can tell what it's doing. Right, so I'm going to do some documentation here. Resets all values to be empty when opening/reloading page. And then we also want to abstract out a function to handle when we submit our form. I'm making all this stuff from the get-go, so then I can go back and reference it later. I could maybe do it the other way around if this is more confusing. You can just tell me, and we can set stuff up and then make the functions later. But I'm just getting it all out of their way from the get-go. So it's usually called handle submit, the usual naming convention for this. And so this is going to be for the form, right, where we're actually changing our secret word. So we're going to first check if they're if we don't have any input, right? If it's still an empty string, and just return, of course, right? Because we don't want to return nothing as our secret word. Then we'll set loading. We'll need to load again. But if that's not the case, then we want to change our secret word, right? So let's grab our data from secret word, await set secret word, right? Because now we're trying to change the secret word here. We're going to set word to be data.secret word or nothing if it's not there. And same thing here. We can actually just copy all this. It's going to be the same. This is going to be the exact same thing. Just basically when we submit and try and change our word, it just resets all the values to be empty again. Whoa, come on. There we go. All right. And then actually this is going to be the exact same too. Just this. And then we can actually just grab this. There we go. Cool. All right. So now that we've done that, now I can explain why I did that. If again, we're not super familiar with use effect, it's one of the other main hooks in React, right? Hooks being they're like this bit of the built-in React functionality that you can pull into your app and then use, right? In the old days, every single React component had access to every single possible thing that React was capable of all the time, which they decided was bad because not every single component is always going to need access to every single thing that React is capable of doing. It's going to bog down the speed of things. So what they did was they said, hey, we're just going to give you nothing at the beginning when you make a component. And so if you need some of that functionality, it is still there, but you need to hook into that functionality. So that's why they're called hooks, right? So this use effect, use state, these are built-in things in React, but until we import them here from React, we don't have access to them. But then once we do, we can hook into that bit of React functionality. So what use effect does is when a component first, what's called mounts, when it renders onto the page, use effect happens. Whatever you put inside of this function here, this little anonymous callback function, it's going to just happen when the component first appears. And so this is where we put load. Right, so the overall reason why, because I could have taken all this, right, all this stuff here, and put it in this use effect, but then this use effect would be really huge and would be kind of hard to read what's going on. And so it's just now going to be just this load function. And if you're curious what the load function does, you can look up here and see what it does. So that's why I did that. But of course, I can't really call this before it exists, right? Well, I can, but it wouldn't be very straightforward. So now that this is happening, and then I just give it its dependency array here. And then, so use effect looks for two things, right? It looks for whatever it's supposed to run when the component first mounts. And then this little array called a dependency array, which is to say that, all right, so it definitely runs when the component first appears, when it mounts, right? But you can tell it to also run at other times. And specifically when the value of a variable, preferably state, changes. So for example, if I wanted use effect to run this load function again, every time, say, our secret word changed, I'd put secret word in here. And then every time secret word changed, use effect would load again. And that would be awful because remember, load like resets everything to the default values. So this would actually like break our app right here because every time secret word change, it would reset secret word to be nothing. So we don't want that. So you still need to put the empty dependency array to say, just do it the one time when the component first mounts. All right. So there's that. So now that we've got all these requisite parts, we can put them together into one React component. And that'll be our whole app. All right, so here we go. Take these out, put them in here again. This is the least efficient way to do this possible. So I'm gonna do the same as them. This is if you haven't seen this before, you're like, what the heck? This doesn't have anything in it. It's just empty. It's called a fragment. It's a React thing because there always needs to be a parent like container element when you're returning something. Like everything needs to be held inside of one big thing in React, in a React component. And you could do a div, right? A div would totally work here, but divs have certain properties, right? Like not a lot of properties. They're supposed to be more general use, but divs do have certain like rules and properties. And if you don't want whatever's contained inside of these to inherit whatever properties divs have, then you create a fragment which has no rules, no properties. So people will often use these fragments to make sure that they're not like inheriting anything or sending these rules down to whatever's contained inside of it. So with that being said, let's test things out bit by bit here to sort of make sense of what's going on here. So first, let's put our header in here, right? It's our basic header. We need to remember to give it our errors. So it needs to know what the errors are so that it can display them. And needs to know what our info is. All right, so what did I do? I gave it two what are called its props. When you, because remember this is just a function, right? This component is just a function. We can go back into header. Remember, it's just a function, right? It says it right here. Except instead of like running like code, it actually just returns HTML. But maybe you want this function to have parameters. Well, in React, instead of parameters, they're called props. And you can see them here, right? Just like you would normally put parameters inside of a function, this is where they are here. And so I'm just defining them here to say, all right, I'm going to call it errors because that's what it's looking for. And so this one here, this errors is the name of the prop, right? And this is the value it's going to have. And this is just going to be whatever errors are living in our state. Same here. So this is the info prop that this header component is looking for. And its value that we're going to give it is whatever info we're going to have. So just that off the rip, let's see. There it is, right? Secret word React version. We can see it right here. Where is this coming from again? This is our header component. This is it, right? There's the secret word React version. So that's what's showing up. And we have, we're supposed to have divs with error and info, but since we don't have any error or any info to show, nothing shows up. Right? And then we can put the footer below that. Footer. I don't think the footer needs anything. I think it's just the footer, right? No props in the footer. Yeah, no props there. Save that. There it goes. Right? See that? So this is the beauty of React. This is what React is all about. Is we split our website up into little components. We only have them handle what they're supposed to handle. And what we call separate our concerns as much as possible, right? The footer doesn't need to know any errors or any info, so it doesn't have access to the errors or the info. Just the header needs to know what the errors and the info are because that's where they're displayed, right? So the footer is just a simple bit of code that says a copyright should be here and the year and the little copyright symbol. Whereas the header is going to be doing more stuff, so it gets a little bit more info, right? And in between these is going to be our form. So let's make a little div here for all of our other stuff. So let's make a little h2 with our secret word. Secret word. So This is where we would check to see if something's loading, right? Because if we're still grabbing, we can't show anything here, right? We won't have our secret word. So we're gonna check, are we loading? Question mark. Ternary operators are very common in React. You use ternary operators a lot. That's why I'm using them fairly frequently, more than I normally would in my code. Because you're checking for values a lot in React. So you often end up doing it this way. So if we are loading, then just say loading. Have a little p tag instead of loading. And if it's not loading, oh, whoops, actually, I'm doing this wrong. This should all be contained inside of the curly brace. So is it loading? This is where we would have the p tag. Loading. And then if we are not loading, this is where we do our other stuff. All right, so here's where all the real stuff is going to happen. So we're going to need a couple things. First off, let's just contain everything inside of another fragment here. It could be a div, whatever. I like fragments. We'll have a p tag of the secret word is, and then we can put our secret word here, secret word. Remember, this is just JavaScript. We're able to leverage JavaScript inside of our HTML. You can do this with EJS, but it doesn't work quite as well, right? You would have to do like the weird like bracket percent thingy. Here, not so much. So here's the secret word. So let's see if this works. I said war. Word is. So it's not working currently, right? It's loading. Oh, it's outside of our fragment. Whoopsies. So change secret word here. All right. So then let's whoops, whoa, what did I do? Yeah. Brittany, who likes React, says I use fragments by default, so I don't have to worry about it later. Yeah, fragments are pretty commonly used for that exact reason, is that you don't have to worry about stuff like yeah, divs inheriting stuff like block spacing and stuff like that. So we need a quick form, just a real quick form. Nothing crazy. We need our input, right? Our text input. Do the inputs work? I think it is. I think it's self-terminating. So it needs a couple of values here. Its name is secret word. Its value is going to be input. Now, what's this input? Don't forget, don't get too confused here. So this input here is state, right? It's just a variable, but it's a special variable that causes the component to change, to re-render whenever this value changes. So it's just a variable that makes components change, all right? So the value of our input, our text input, is obviously going to be our input variable that we've already set. So here's a special React thing on change. So whenever the value inside of the text box changes, we're going to run a little function here. Let's not put these on separate lines. Whoa, it's unhappy with me. So on change, let's put this all on separate lines. We're going to run a quick little function here. And we're going to put E in here. So this E here is short for the event that's happening, which is typing and changing. We're going to want to change the value of the input to be whatever is currently in our text input. And so don't forget that for every state variable, we have a special function for changing that state variable, right? And it's always set in the name of the variable. So we have set input. I'm going to change the value of input to be e.target.value. This is just a very common thing. E.target.value is going to be, yeah, it's the value of the event target, which is our text input. And just for good practice, we'll have a little placeholder here. You know, like when you have a text box on like a on some website, and it'll have like a little like grayed out text that says like, you know, name here or type here or something, and then it disappears when you start typing. That's what this is. So enter secret word. There we go. Cool. So that's a little form. We should be able to see it here. Oh, it's still loading. That's right. And then we need buttons for submitting. Button, submit. And so here's the important thing. Here's the really important thing, is that for all this to work, we need to say on click, run handle submit. Now, what's handle submit? Remember before, earlier, I was saying, hey, I'm making a function. I'm going to explain what it does later. It's this one, handle submit. So what's handle submit do? Really similar to loading, right? It's going to set the value. It's going to change the value of secret word, basically. It's going to set secret word to be the value of input. What's input? It's that variable that we're changing here in our text, right? So essentially what's happening, every time we type into our text box, we are going to change the value of input. And then when we click the submit button, it's going to run this function here, which sets the new secret word to be whatever the value of input is. We already also have our load function, so we can just take advantage of that too a little bit here, actually. We can always have a refresh button. And when you click that on click, we can actually do something similar. Actually, no, we don't even need this function. We can just say load like this. Still loading. It's unhappy with me for some reason. What did I do? It's probably something about the loading stuff. Well, for now, let's not do that. Let's not load stuff because we're not even needing to do that anyway. Let's get rid of this bit here. Then we would get rid of this. Get rid of this. Okay, get rid of this too. There we go. Now I can see it. And that's it. This is pretty much, except for like a little bit of like default styling that's different between EJS and like a base like React app. This is pretty much what it was, right? But now in React. Ping. Wait. Oh, did I not do that correctly? Let's see. Values input on change e set input to be e.target.value. Is this crashing right now? Oh, it's just unhappy altogether. Let's see. Whoa, it's really unhappy. Oh, that's weird. There were two versions of it. What? Huh, okay. That was weird. Did I kill it? What's going on? Okay. It's breaking again. Huh, what's going on? It's not even erroring out, it's just getting stuck. It's freezing. Let's just kill it altogether. Oh, that's something else. My other job. Oops. Okay. As soon as I start typing, I think let's inspect because we're definitely getting some kind of error here. Okay, so as soon as I start typing, everything just crashes. So I've clearly got some kind of, yeah, I think I probably created some sort of infinite loop here. Yeah. Let's just comment out the use effect for a second. That's probably it, honestly. That's what I get for making it too complex right off the bat. There we go. There we go. Yeah, now it's working. Yeah, probably was creating some sort of infinite loop where it was trying to update and then it would change. It might have actually still thought that it's supposed to like remount and like the use effect was supposed to run every time I changed input, right? Where I was saying don't do that. I might have accidentally had it set somewhere where it does that. We can refresh. That's a secret word. Yeah, Gabe is awesome, which is not one word. There we go. Hello world. Right, and not only that, we can also see that it's in here, right, inside of memory. No, sorry, application. As I have local storage, we can see here secret word.value. What's syzygy right now? Well, when we set it, it'll change. But yeah, this is basically it. So quick recap of what we're doing. We just split instead of having like partials with EJS, we had our little components. We got a little footer, we got a little header, and we've got our API, which is yeah, pretty robust, but it's going to be able to handle all of our situations forever. And we just took those little components, we threw them in here, and then we just made a little form that sets and changes our secret word value, which is just a variable. So yeah, that's React in a nutshell of the sort of like React way of doing things. Split things into components, store important variables in state, ones that you want components to change when they change, right? Like we have some other variables, right? But these are the ones that stuff should change, right? If the secret word changes, obviously we want the component rendering the secret word to change. Same with input and errors and info. Loading is yeah, not as important right now. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions about how we tackled things from React, how we converted things from EJS into React, anything like that? Drink some water. No? Okay. Well, that's good. I actually have this all saved to a GitHub repository. Which I'm not going to push up what we did here because I already had like the working version pushed up to GitHub. But I can share that in what's it called in the Kangaroo announcements. So if anyone wants to see it and copy along or compare your work in EJS to the React version, you can always do that if people want to look at that kind of stuff. Just whenever you do, if you do decide to do that, don't forget. Let's see, where's GitHub? That's the wrong one. Repositories. Be this. Remember, this is on the React branch. So if you wanted to look at the React code, you would want to go here and go to React. All this stuff. Although I might not have actually not put this all in here. Whoops, totally forgot to do it. All right, well then I will push this actually. It's so weird. I swore that I did this actually. I'm already remembering that I actually did do this. That's odd. Whatever. Lesson. Weird. I just sworn. Oh well. There it is, part one done. What the? Why did that not show up? Whatever. Yeah. Anything else about any of this? The EJS part or the React part that anyone has? Or about projects? Remember, that's coming up too. Any questions or comments about any of that? I am open. I know we're already over time. I always appreciate, you spending your precious time staying here with me and listening to me ramble and talk about code. So I want to take up any more of it than I am allowed. But if you have any more questions or comments, I'm totally open now. Thank you. All right, awesome. Well, this was fun. React is super fun. I'm loving it. Uh, so yeah, this was a good time for me. And yeah, I'll this will be the next 2 weeks as well. Next week and the following week, we'll be doing like auth and stuff. And I'll be doing this. I'll be building the React app along the way and showing you probably why we did all this effort from at the beginning, because this and the loading stuff will make way more sense when it gets more complex, right? But we had a little bit of extra time since it was so simple. We got it out of the way now. Awesome. Cool, guys. I don't want to keep just yapping your ear off. So thanks for coming. And as always, the recording will be online. This repository will be on GitHub and shared. It'll all be available for you to watch at your leisure again. All right. So